Hello, YouTube and Patreon. This is Nathan P. Butler, and this is our project update for the month of March 2021. It's been a somewhat productive month. I would say it's more productive probably behind the scenes than what you're seeing in terms of new output, but I have gotten some things that had been recorded a while back, finally edited and out, and it's kind of the same situation again where I have some things that are recorded now that just need to be edited and pushed on out there, including a rather odd episode from the Star Wars Home Video Library that I will mention as we get to that. But first, let me thank all of you who are backers over there on Patreon. Again, that is patreon.com/NathanPButler, all as one word. And there are those 3 tiers over there. We start out with the Travelers Through the Butlerverse. That's that $1 tier that gets those who back at that tier a thanks in the credits to these videos, out loud, as long as it's still a manageable number here in these videos, and then also on the Patreon credits or Patreon thanks page that you'll find in Volume 2, or excuse me, second edition of A Saga on Home Video, Volumes 1, 2, and 3, because it is going to be a 3-volume set now. So, those include Bon Linez, I think I'm saying that correctly, lie like lie, and Nez like the biz in business. Bon Linez, Travis Cook, Caleb Owens, Justin Richard, Preston Ellis, Jeremy Goss, Ben Abrams, Michael Torson, Jacob Kapoor, Tony Jenkins, Kevin Kreiner, Austin Pierce, and Chris Walker. Then we have the denizens of the Butlerverse. Those are the folks who have that $5 tier, who have what the $1 tier get, but also get those audio commentaries each month, at least 2, typically on the 1st and the 15th of the month, typically dealing with episodes of the Clone Wars while that series is still ongoing, though we've made some pretty significant progress in knocking out that series up to this point, which we'll talk about here in a moment. The denizens currently include Alexander Santos, Craig Clayton, Matt DeRochers, Daniel Marchant, Travis Taylor, Andrew Gilbertson, Walker Langstrat, Jeff Ellis, Joy Zitzman, Stephen Malicia, Robert Medina, Bobby Craig, Jeremiah Mustard, and Jason Hunt. And then finally, we have the nobility of the Butlerverse. Those are the folks who are at that $10 tier over there. They get what the other 2 tiers got, but also get access to that exclusive monthly Q&A video, where they ask the questions in collection threads in a particular month. Then I gather all the questions from that collection thread and use it at the beginning of the next month for a Q&A video that only they have access to. And of course, jumping into that tier gives you access to everything from that tier, including all the way back to the beginning of those Q&A videos. The nobility currently include Joe Balh. Joe, let me know if I'm not saying your name correctly here. Connor Steyerman, Jeff Rabjohns, Matthew Hardesty, Kyle Pellegrini, Ennis, Jonathan Comfer, Sam Howard, Andrew Bettis, and Benjamin Handelman. So let's stick with Patreon here. What has come out new on Patreon since the last of the project updates, which was put online on February 20th? Well, on March 1st, we had the Clone Wars commentary for The Box, which of course is part of that Obi-Wan Undercover arc, that was followed on the 15th by Crisis on Naboo, that finished up that Obi-Wan Undercover arc. Of course, in the interim, we also had the Nobility of the Butlerverse exclusive Q&A video for the month of March, back on March 7th. It is number 39, by the way, in that series. So those who have access to that tier have 39 Q&A videos, usually fairly substantial ones to check out if they have an interest in that sort of thing. As to what's coming up, of course, in early April, we'll have another of those Q&A episodes for the Nobility of the Butlerverse, but we're at the point now where we're basically wrapping up Season 4 of the Clone Wars with the commentaries. So in April and May, it's a pretty important, pretty exciting arc to do the commentaries for. Those commentaries are recorded, they are edited, they are ready to go for launch on April 1st and 15th, and then May 1st and 15th. Those will be for Massacre, Bounty, Brothers, and Revenge. Yes, the Darth Maul Returns arc, which is really cool because it's a heck of a arc of the series. That also means that the next commentaries I'll be recording soon, once I get some notes taken on them, will be the ones that kick off Season 5 of the Clone Wars. It kind of feels like the end of the Clone Wars is finally at least somewhat in sight. I mean, it's going to be a while in terms of actually releasing the commentaries before we are officially done with the Clone Wars. I'm assuming that's going to take us into probably 2023, give or take. I'll just have to kind of do the math on that. But for now, it's pretty substantial that we've managed to get 4, once we get to the end of May with the releases, but as far as recording goes, to have all 4 of the first seasons of Clone Wars done, recorded, ready to go, plus the film, plus all 4 episodes of those volume versions of Forces of Destiny there on the channel. I'm really looking forward to finally getting towards the end of Clone Wars where it really kind of ramps up, but then also moving on to do recordings probably next for Rebels. I know Resistance would be easy because Resistance is shorter. Not all that fired up about Resistance. Or maybe we do like a combination of Resistance and Rebels or something where they alternate, or I don't know yet. But suffice to say, it's nice to know that we have basically one regular full season and 2 short seasons left of Clone Wars before Clone Wars is done in the commentaries, which, you know, when I started this thing a few years ago, it felt like it was going to be forever down the line. So keep an eye out for those. Again, if you want to check those out, it's patreon.com/Nathan P. Butler. The Darth Maul Returns arc commentaries are coming on the 1st and 15th of April, then the 1st and 15th of May. So if you waited until the end of May to jump in there, then you'd have access to those as part of what you get access to. Because again, you get access to everything from the tier, so someone who jumps in at the Denizen level now, which is that $5 tier, gets access to every single one of these Clone Wars commentaries. The most recent one released was the 85th. So a lot of exclusive content there for a relatively low price tag. He says, pluggy, 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 pluggy. All right, beyond that, most of the stuff, of course, that I'm putting out at this point, aside from just working on a Saga on Home Video 2nd edition, the book, is stuff that is over there on YouTube, or here on YouTube, depending on where you're watching this video. As far as new episodes from the Star Wars Home Video Library, we had a few, most of which were recorded, I think, in January. That just took me a while to finally get edited and out. It took over a month, I want to say, in some cases. I've also recorded another batch, only one of which has been released so far, which will soon see release, of course, sometime probably between now and the next of these project update videos. So, we had episode number 378, which was the episode looking at the Ewok telemovie VHS releases coming out of the UK. We had episode 379, where we took a look at the model kits from the Spark of Rebellion DVD release and the exclusive red card item that you could have gotten if you're a red card member at Target when pre-ordering Solo. That's that Lando's Millennium Falcon thing. Never will I put together a Metal Earth model again. Then we had episode 380, where we took a look at a UK DVD version of Spark of Rebellion, which in that case did not include the Ghost model referenced in the previous episode. Then we jumped into episode 381, taking a look at the 1988 VHS releases of the original trilogy from the UK. Then episode 382, we took a look at the ones from 1989 from the UK. No box sets in any of these cases. Then in episode 383, we took a look at the UK releases, the widescreen releases that actually hit shelves in late 1991, beating the American widescreen release to the punch by a matter of months. Then we had episode number 163.1. That is a supplemental episode. Any of those point whatevers are supplemental episodes. They're just adding to our knowledge of something we've covered before. In that case, it was showing the 2013 DVD trilogy sets from the UK for the original trilogy and prequel trilogy, showing that those indeed did have slip covers on their original releases over there. Then, in terms of releases, that had cut off the ones that I had recorded back, I believe, in January. And then the first of the next round that I recorded that still hasn't all been released, you'll recognize those by a Spider-Man shirt. Those started out with the Return of the Jedi Video 8 release from the UK that I acquired through Matt from Techmoan. Finally, heeding the advice back months ago of people telling me that's who to go to see if they might want to sell a copy of that film because they showed it in a video. And sure enough, wound up getting into my hands and being able to show it here on the show. Like I said, I got some other stuff that's already recorded. One of the more fun and weird, kind of quirky ones that I recently recorded is actually a video. It's an intermission. There's actually 2 intermission episodes among the stuff that's recorded now that I still need to edit. One is looking at more signed stuff. A Daisy Ridley signed item, a Mark Hamill signed item, a Billy D. Williams signed item. All home video stuff. But in terms of the other intermission, the kind of weird one that I kind of liked, I take the camera away from here. I put it in the position it's typically in for the Q&A videos for Patreon or those old mini Q&A videos I used to do on here. And basically go through the 3D glasses, the Real D 3D glasses that were available tied into all the different Star Wars Real D 3D releases. So we look at 3D glasses that come from The Phantom Menace in multiple venues, the Attack of the Clones ones from Celebration, the Revenge of the Sith ones from Celebration, 2 different sets of ones for The Force Awakens, that is regular Real D 3D glasses through places like Cinemark, and then the Look 3D ones, and then did the same thing for Rogue One, same thing for Last Jedi, and also looked at a special internal kind of fancy schmancy Lucasfilm Look 3D, Real D 3D glasses, certified 3D glasses set that were used for screenings actually within Lucasfilm itself. It was 23 different sets of 3D glasses that we looked at. I show them, I show the markings, I show the packaging. I try every single one of them on, and they are now hanging on a nice sunglasses holding thing, display wall mount, whatever you want to call it, here in my Star Wars office slash collecting room, whatever you want to call it, slash kid stuff all over the place, hence the unraveled playpen back there kind of room. So those will be coming up soon. I'm hoping that if I don't get a chance to get those edited before the first full week of April, then that's when I'll be editing them, because that's when our spring break finally hits. Beyond that, of course, the big thing that I'm working on is the book, A Saga on Home Video 2nd edition. I think in the last video was when I mentioned, or the previous one, that it has been split now into 3 different volumes. So we're going to have one volume that basically covers up through right before The Force Awakens gets released on home video when it comes to live-action films, right? And then we pick up and we do the Disney live-action films in a few chapters in Volume 2. And then Volume 3 is the rest of the stuff, the TV stuff, the behind-the-scenes stuff, and so on and so on and so on. I'm going to give you a quick breakdown here for those who are curious. There has been a chapter change that I think is newer than the last video. So each volume is going to start out with its own preface. And then you're going to have Volume 1 will have the introduction in it, similar introduction to what was in the original 1st edition. Then we have the chapters Glimmers of Hope. That's going to be the one that's about like the Super 8 reels, a brief look at 16mm, the Kenner movie viewer. It now also includes a mini Cinex coming out of Italy and shows that the Give a Show from the US is not actually a home video item. Then we have one of the huge chapters, The Great Format War. That's the one that takes a look at the basically the THX remastered versions of the original trilogy on a ton of different formats. Beta, VHS, Laserdisc, CED, and then it also takes in stuff from other regions like Video 8 and VHD and so on. Then, of course, we have the original One Last Time, which will be the chapter that is about the THX remastered editions and the definitive collection that led to those. We have See It Again for the First Time, which, of course, will be covering the special edition initial releases. Then we have Rise of DVD, Demise of VHS. That's going to be the one that goes into the prequels, and then the various DVD releases and whatnot up until right before the release on Blu-ray of the original 6 films. Then once we get to that point, we're looking at the chapter, The Lucasfilms in HD. And that will end Volume 1. I have decided the volumes will not have individual names. It'll just be Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3. I'll let the descriptions tell what's in them rather than trying to come up with catchy little subtitles, because the titles are already long enough with the Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3 kind of stuff. And I was having trouble coming up with decent ones that weren't misleading. Then Volume 2 is going to have its own preface, of course. The prefaces, by the way, now have like a guide to the different types of sidebars and a guide to what to expect in that book, like what each chapter is about. And each one's chapter listing starts out with a chapter listing for that volume, but then underneath it tells you which chapters are in the other volumes. Trying to make it as user-friendly as possible in that case. Only 3 chapters in Volume 2, but they're kind of large. You have Enter Disney, which is the one that covers Force Awakens and Rogue One. In that era. Then we have a Rise of 4K, Demise of 3D, which covers primarily Last Jedi and Solo. Then All Together Now, that covers Rise of Skywalker, Skywalker Saga, all the Black Border releases stuff, and that sort of thing. So all of these volumes are about the same size. They're anywhere right now between about 250 and 350 pages, give or take. But how many chapters each one has depends on how long those chapters happen to be. And then, of course, we have the final volume, which will have the preface for it. And then it'll have, it'll start out actually with a chapter that has been split. Originally, the chapter was known as Droids, Ewoks, and a Guy Named Gindi. And it covered the Ewok telemovies, the Droids and Ewoks cartoon series, and the Clone Wars micro series. I have been convinced recently that if Resistance is going to get its own freaking chapter, and it barely exists on home video, Clone Wars micro series should have its own chapter. So now it's been split. And what used to be Droids, Ewoks, and a guy named Gindi is now a chapter called Teddy Bears, Tawanis, and Trouble Again, right? So Ewoks, the Tawani family from the Ewok telemovies, and Trouble Again, right, from Droids, which may be the song that is keeping it from being able to be put on Disney Plus, with the rest of the stuff coming soon. And then the Clone Wars micro series stuff that's being pulled out for its own chapter is going to be in a chapter called Gindi Goes Micro. So 2 chapters where there used to be 1. Then, of course, we have Rewriting the Clone Wars, which is about the Clone Wars TCW series, with the on it, of course, the Filoni and Lucas series. Then we have the chapter Joining the Rebellion that looks at Rebels. Then we have a home video catastrophe, which looks at Resistance. Then a chapter called The Baby Yoda Show. And that is one that talks a bit about Mandalorian and Disney Gallery Mandalorian and those various series, wherever things stand at that point. But which, doesn't talk really about home video releases so much as it talks about, here are the digital ways that it's been found and the implications thereof. So pretty quick chapter. Then we have the chapter Brick by Brick that looks at all the Lego Star Wars stuff. Then we have Behind the Curtain looking at the various behind-the-scenes materials. And then we have a Cantina Full of Oddballs, which is sort of just the catch-all chapter. Then we have the chapter This is the Way, which is basically the advice for Star Wars home video collecting. It's expanded from what it used to be, and previously it was just like advice for Star Wars home video collecting or tips or whatever it was called. And then there's now an afterword to the series, to the 3 volumes, the afterword entitled Into the Unknown, which of course is a tip of the hat both to one of my favorite bands, Panic at the Disco, but also the name of a Dark Horse Comics series. And if I remember correctly, Into the Unknown was also a Star Wars Tales story that brought Indiana Jones and Star Wars together. But that's where I sort of talk about what's coming soon, and what has been announced, and so the question of where does Star Wars home video go from here. At my last count, before adding even more pictures, the total picture count was 1,201. Yes, 1,200 pictures, all of which are now in color in this 3-volume set that is going to make up a Saga on Home Video 2nd edition. So pretty happy with that. Since then, these are the pages I still have stuff left to edit on before I do another printout. I've got my photo list down to almost nothing. So the vast majority of photos that needed to be taken, that I already knew needed to be taken, have been inserted, or are waiting for content to be written to be inserted, like the Australian DVD individual volumes for Clone Wars seasons 1 through 4, that kind of thing, for a little sidebar. And I got a list of topics I need to make sure to add and things to check on or things to measure, but a lot of the measuring has now been done. I've mentioned how the dimensions were kind of a pain because I had to go measure certain things to be able to adequately describe them. So my hope is that by the time my spring break is done, be like middle of April, that hopefully by then I'll be able to do another printout of the book. But in this case, or the books. But at this point, I'm hoping that what this is going to mean is I'm going to have some chapters I'm going to start to be able to lock, meaning that they won't need any further changes. Like Glimmers of Hope with the Super 8s and stuff, I don't expect that to necessarily change anymore. I can probably lock that down. Same thing probably with the chapter on Resistance, and so on and so on and so on. So as I go, I'm going to start pinning down chapters so that hopefully, maybe not on this printout, but maybe the next printout, so not the next time I print, but 2 times from now when I print, that it'll be just looking through and making sure to check for errors or issues like that, rather than trying to think about adding content or tweaking content. So that basically it's with an eye towards locking the chapter unless there's something that needs to change. I did have a little bit of a setback, thanks to Microsoft Word. I'm going to have to just turn off the thing where it shows recent file use. Basically, if you right-click, if you're not familiar with it, if you right-click on the taskbar item, or the start bar, whatever you call it, the little bar at the bottom, you click on the Microsoft Word icon. It brings up a list of recently used files and files you have pinned to a list for quick access. What I do is I work on the book on files that are on an external hard drive to keep them safe. And then what I'll do after that is, after I get done working for a day, I copy those files, those 3 files, into my iCloud drive, the documents folder from my iCloud drive. So I've got that backup copy. What I wasn't realizing was that when it populates the list of recently used files, it's not populating the last stuff I used in Word. It's the last stuff used or touched at all. So what was happening was I had a list that was populated with pinned stuff at the top, which are my working files that I want to work in. But then the ones that I copied and pasted as backups to iCloud Drive, showing up on the list directly underneath them as recently used, even though they haven't been opened in Word at all. And at some point, apparently, while working, I must have clicked on one of the bottom ones instead of the top ones. And I wound up in a situation where I lost some of my work because I had done the work in the iCloud Drive files, but then as soon as I was done working, copied the ones from the external drive and pasted them on top of the iCloud files. Not even thinking about the fact that it's going to tell me, are you sure you want to do this? Well, yeah, of course, I know what I'm doing. Yeah, I just wasn't working in the wrong damn files. So I've had to go through twice now and split Droids, Ewoks, and a guy named Gindi into Teddy Bears, Tuanis, and Trouble Again, and Gindi Goes Micro. I've split those chapters twice, because the first time all of that work was lost. I'm hoping it's not a ton of work that was lost, but I won't know until I do another printout. Hopefully it won't set it back too far. But for it being March, I still am not confident that we're talking first half of this year. I definitely am confident we're talking about this year, and I would have been shocked if you asked me like a month or two ago if it would have been this far along by near the end of March. So it's making really, really steady progress. But it helps that that's what I'm spending my time working on when I get any time away from work or anything else. Been one of those months where haven't had a whole lot of time to work on stuff. Work is pretty crazy, getting stuff ready for summer session, plus working on course development and dealing, of course, with tons of students and interviewing people for summer school positions because I'm one of the department leads, so I've got to interview people to get ready for summer school to make sure that they, kind of know what the heck they're doing. Plus, we had the first time where my son was sick with a fever, and I got ill. I got the vaccine. I've been vaccinated, Johnson & Johnson one-shot vaccine, because I'm not as heavily at risk as others. And in that case, basically, by that night, I had a fever and felt like crap. So I had about 2 days to recover from having gotten the vaccine and the side effects from that. And we got a wedding to go to. That's why I'm recording this at night. We've got a wedding to go to as well. So not a lot of the usual work time, but what time I've been able to get, I've sort of squeezed in some picture taking for the book, so that I can always keep making that forward progress as much as possible on it, and it seems to be paying off. So, yeah. Productive month, but not seeing it as much with the output here. But you got some more episodes from the Star Wars Home Video Library already recorded and on the way, including a bizarre one with me showing you and wearing all 23 of those pairs of glasses. In fact, I think it's actually 25, because I think I show you a regular Real D 3D glasses set, and I show you the glasses, the active shutter system glasses that go with my 3D system. So lots and lots of me wearing funky glasses as opposed to my regular glasses here in that upcoming episode. So it should be pretty fun. I'm excited that the mall episodes are going to start rolling out for the Patreon. I'm excited to finally start recording for Season 5. So things seem to be looking up, seem to be looking well. And with spring break coming up, I can't wait to have that time to be productive. Hopefully. But we shall see. By the time of the next episode, probably, because, of course, that's in April, and the next of these will be near the end of April. So, with that, thank you all for your interest in the projects. Thank you all for backing over on Patreon. If you have, I really appreciate that. And, yeah, I will catch you all in a month. Stay safe out there. Hopefully the new normal is close to returning to the old normal, at least as the vaccinations continue to roll out. So stay safe. Hopefully the end of that stuff is in sight.